Recording in 3, 2, 1, and roll.
I have to make sure I get the
intro right.
intro right.
You just changed
I've
it.
been doing it, changing it. Welcome to Live Ready Beyond Think and Grow Rich with your host, me, David Ibarra, and my guest today is James Davenport. Welcome, James.
Thanks so much for having me, David.
Well, first of all, many of you are probably thinking, what happened to the title? What happened? We've rebranded the podcast to match everything else that we do, is surrounded around our principles of success offered by Napoleon Hill in Think and Grow Rich and rewritten by me in Live Ready Beyond Think and Grow Rich. So hence, we've made a rebranding.
I like it. Sounds like a great title.
So, as I started to think about who we could have on the program and to talk about each time, we're going to kind of zero in on a principle of success. And one of them is the utilization of time and money correctly. How is it that you manage, in this case, money? And there is an art to it. So I wanted to first have you tell us, our audience, a little bit about you.
Yeah, thanks. David, it really goes back to my father.
Mm-hmm.
So in 1995, my father was 59 years old. I'm going to be 54. 59 doesn't seem that very old anymore. And he passed away of colon cancer. Hard to believe how quickly 30 years just goes by in a snap. And after he passed away, we went and saw a financial advisor. And I remember walking out of that office with my mom. I was one of the few kids out of 6 that knew about finances. I was graduating in that.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember saying, I don't get it. Dad was smart. He was organized. This is not that. What happened?
Mm-hmm.
And I remember my mom, it was like a lightning bolt went through me. She said, your father didn't feel like there was anybody you could trust. Felt like there was always a hidden agenda.
Right.
And so it was this desire that I wanted to be a financial advisor. And I thought back to the very first advice my dad had given me. I was 14 years old. I wanted to work at Lagoon. And he said, that's a bad environment. You're not going to do well there. You're going to get in trouble. There's a bunch of rowdy kids there. But I said, I'm going to go. And he goes, you got to make your own way to Lagoon. So I used to ride my bike 8 miles each way.
Wow.
And he said, there's one rule if you work. You have to save 10% of every dollar. So I'm like, I'm making $2.50 an hour. I can save 25 cents every hour.
Uh-huh.
And probably the very best advice I'd ever been given. So that really started a compounding for me. I continually saved that, graduated without any student loans, without any debt, money in the bank. And I wanted to be an advisor where people could come in and I could be trusted.
So you are a professional financial advisor. Tell us a little bit about the company you're at, your history of how long have you been doing this?
Yeah, a long time, 28 years.
28 years.
Yeah, started clear back in 1997. So my father passed away in 95, just 2 years later. In my mind, I knew the company that I wanted.
Mm-hmm.
But starting out, I didn't really know a lot of wealthy people. My father worked for the government. There were 6 kids. And so it was a matter of trying to knock every bush, knock on every door, and just find anybody that had money. What I quickly realized about a year into it was that I cared a lot more than what people cared about their money. And so I felt like I needed to find people that were business owners that could make really good decisions. And ever since 1998, I said I would only work with business owners. I liked their mindset. I liked their ability to make decisions quickly and also to make high power and important decisions.
Right.
So it took about 10 years or so, and I helped found a company called Integrated Financial Group. And then
now you started that company.
Ran it from 2007 until about 18 months ago, and it was a really major change. I had worked with Mike Bennett, who is the founder of Crewe Capital, an investment banking guy, just as honest as the day is long. Just a great guy with a lot of integrity. I met Ryan Halliday, who is also the founder of Crewe Advisors. And what I quickly realized, and it was pretty humbling, in a period of about 10 years, they'd grown a company twice the size of me. And one of the things that a lot of people don't know is that in the financial advising world, you have captive guys like a Northwestern or a Mass Mutual guy. They have to sell you a product to be able to keep their license. You have your Merrill Lynch or your Goldman Sachs or your Morgan Stanley guys. They have to sell you stocks and bonds to keep their license. What I love about Crewe is that they are a registered investment advisory firm. So the entire world is open. I work for my clients. They're my boss. I'm not beholden to anybody. And what's cool is then we can look at things like private capital, private equity, private debt, real estate.
Well, I think that, James, as you start talking about how it is to manage your own money, one of the things that I think that people go through their mind, certainly me, is that, I've got plenty of time. And right now it's the hustle of I've got to make a living. I've got to buy a house. I've got to get somebody through college. All these different wants. And one of the principles that I learned early is the advantage you have when you have a specialized talent team. We don't know everything there is to know about everything. I'm not, when I was younger, I wanted to say, I'll take time and I'll learn about the stock market, or I'll learn about bonds, or I'll learn about this. But the one thing that we want everybody to recognize is that utilizing your money, it's an art, it's a discipline. It's something you have to do in order to have the fourth quarter of your life. And in my case, I want some overtime.
Sure.
And I want to be able to live comfortably, and I want to be able to do something with the money that I've earned. It doesn't do any good to go into spending therapy. That's not going to make you happy, but helping your money grow to use it correctly. Now, there's an art to that. Now, I want to say something right up front. When you started talking a minute ago, you were giving me that glaze because James is my advisor, and he does know more about the money than I do. I sometimes didn't take the time. And I'm glad that as I got to this stage of my life that I said, wait a minute, I need to take the time. And so
let's talk about some of the key principles. From the very beginning, if you start out, first off, you have to have money to invest.
Right.
So, you work really hard, pay yourself first. That's that 10%. If you make over 100,000, you should save 20%. I've done thousands of calculations, but if you want to retire in the same way that you're become accustomed to, you got to save 20%. With that, you then want 3 different proverbial buckets, if you will. First bucket's your emergency reserves. Right. Second bucket is your opportunity money. Let's say David Ibarra comes to you with an amazing opportunity. If you don't have 2 pennies to rub together, you miss out on that. The third is your largest, it's your long term. So let's say you have those 3 buckets. The key is then diversification. The advantage of having an expert team on your side, one of the first is your tax strategy. So you have your normal income.
Right. As
a business owner, you have more than 18 deductions that you can take. But often your CPA just prepares your returns.
Right.
If you strategize and think about what all those are, that's the first thing to get you a little bit more money. The second thing, many people have heard of it, but you should really know and look into it if you don't. It's called tax harvesting. So in this fourth quarter, we start to meet with clients and we look at their portfolio. And let's say that you owned a basket of stocks in your portfolio, 300 or 400 of them typically. And let's say you had Coke and Pepsi.
Right.
Let's say Coke went down and you could sell out of it. 30 days later, you can buy it back, but you don't want to be out of the market in those 30 days. So you buy Pepsi as a holdover until it comes back. The ability that you have now is to bank a loss against future gains.
So when you're saying that, when you are saying tax harvesting,
Yeah.
is what you're doing is you're creating a loss. So when the tax period comes, the end of the year, that can write off some of the gains that you had to get your tax amount paid and owed as small as you possibly can.
So think about it. If you can just reduce that tax drag by 1% over a 20-year period, if I made let's just pick a number, a $500,000 investment, over 20 years, that 1% benefit by doing tax strategies, you're going to have $650,000 more money.
Right.
It's immense. And often a normal investor or somebody just investing in a Vanguard S&P fund, you can't tax harvest in that way. You need to have individual stocks. So
Right.
big advantage.
Well, if anybody's listening and or are listening and you're a little bit lost, don't worry. James has gone over it with me 100 times, and I'm getting better at it. But the one thing that I know, this is not my full-time talent. So if you want to have the best return on the money that you earned, go with somebody that it is their full-time talent, which means it's their labor of love. Now, how do we know about an investor that we have or a company? How are they rated? Can you go somewhere to see the individuals? And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, you're rated.
At what age do you wish you had unlocked the principles that lead to success? Where do you think you'd be today if you had learned them as a child? Yes, Our Kids Can is a program developed at Harvard and tested in San Antonio's school systems, designed to give children of all backgrounds the opportunity to plant the seeds for future success, using learning techniques they understand and enjoy. Through engaging animated stories, fun sing-along songs, and interactive games, Yes, Our Kids Can teaches your child the empowering, success-driven principles needed to reach their full potential. Don't miss this opportunity to give your children the future they deserve. Yes, Our Kids Can is available now on the Apple App Store and Google Play. Sign up today and help make your child's dreams a reality.
That's true. Let me back up and answer one more thing, and then let's go to that question. One of the interesting things about having success in your portfolio is reducing or eliminating your emotional connection to your portfolio. So you can have all the experts in the world, or maybe you're really good at it. Let's say you take 2008, the market goes down in one period from September until March, 59%.
59%.
Okay? That's kind of tough to stick in there and not panic when it's that far that it comes down. Another time is 2020,
Right.
the pandemic. Another year, 2022. So if you can have somebody emotionally take you out of that fear and say, look, historically, whenever there's a market that goes down that far, the next 2 years are some of the very best years,
Right.
and you get back to recovery. So it's the science, it's the advisory team, but it's also that emotional support an advisor can help you. Let me go to the most recent question. You can be rated by Forbes. The nice thing in Forbes is that you don't pay them. I would say almost every other magazine, you have to pay them money to be in their top rankings. So look at Shook Research, and then they're going to rate the advisors, and that's how you kind of get a best in state by true analysis of what those advisors are doing.
And how do you find that? Do you find that online? Do you find that?
Typically, well, in my case, they found me and they reached out and said, hey, we'd love you to apply. But yeah, you can go to Forbes.com, Best Financial Advisors, Shook Research, and then.
Now, weren't you recently honored as being one of the top advisors in the
I was.
state?
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
Well, you're making me blush, David. I don't typically just tout it out there.
Well, you didn't. I did.
No, it's a great honor for Forbes to look at all the different financial advisors. You have to think that, Utah, we have a prolific amount of financial advisors. There's probably close to 9,000 or 10,000. and to be listed in the top 25, it's a great honor.
Mm-hmm.
And part of it, what they look at is the success of your firm. They look at the assets under management. They look at the growth that your firm has had.
So you are ranked in the top 25 advisors in the state or the West?
In currently in the state of Utah.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. I feel better now. Well, I want to talk a little bit about how is it that a good majority, I would say the majority of people do not believe they can invest or save. And how did we come about being the debt service that we have as individual families? And what would you say to members of our community that believe, well, that's for rich people?
Yeah.
I can guarantee you I was not born rich and have spent most of my life trying to make ends meet. And but what would be your message to them?
Yeah, I think, unfortunately, it's the academic principles that we have a lack of in our junior high and high schools.
Mm-hmm.
There's a little bit of financial teaching that goes on, but you have to think this: you can't graduate from high school unless you've taken geometry. But you don't need to know about compound interest or interest on a credit card.
Mm-hmm.
And what are you more likely to use over your life? And so the other sad statistic is that 50% of people in the United States have less than $1,000.
Right.
And so it's bad. And think about it. It's just math, right? If you earn $4 and you spend $5, you're poor.
Right.
If you earn $3 and you spend $1, you're incredibly wealthy.
Right.
So what most people need to identify is emotionally, what is the reason they're trying to spend themselves into happiness? You mentioned that
Right.
kind of characteristic. So once you first identify the easy math, save first and don't spend, then the second is really there's, because of ChatGPT, because of Grok, Gemini, 3 really different AI models.
Right.
You can actually say, hey, over the next 4 weeks, give me a 15-minute lesson every day about finances. And it will take you all the way from what interest is, what debt is, what are stocks, what are bonds, what are mutual funds, what are indexes. And it'll lay out just an amazing beginning. And then maybe when you went to go see that financial advisor, you may not feel so intimidated.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing I found, really talking to any financial advisor, you're going to find that they're charismatic, they care about you, and I would say 99% of the time, they're going to teach you what you maybe didn't learn in school.
Right.
So just take that first step. It's just don't be hesitant.
And I think that it's really important for folks to know you've got to take the emotion out of it. And, we all learned good lessons about finance, proper finance management, money management from the first lesson, normally from our parents. If, hey, I want to buy a bike, I want to buy a skateboard, I want to buy X. And what were we told? Well, then you have to earn it.
Yep.
So you went, and whether it's snow removal, babysitting, whether it's weeding, cleaning windows, you got a job, you worked, counted, saved, worked, counted, saved, until the day arrived that you had the money, and then your parents would drive you to buy it, and you celebrated. You had the lesson of delayed gratification and good money management. But what happens when you're 18 and you take your money to the bank? You get this thing called a debit card.
Yep.
And you just got to swipe it, and they give you stuff. And you swipe it, and you give you stuff. And then if it stops working, well, it's 2 days or 2 weeks or a week till payday, they'll reload it, and then you get credit card applications. Yeah. And we ruin our financial management, goes out the window, and now we become a slave of interest, and we're not earning it. Someone else is earning it.
So true. Tell me more about that from the standpoint, how do you take those great philosophies and those teachings that you had from great grandparents. I mean, my grandparents were farmers.
Mm-hmm.
So I had a little bit of that taught to me, one of which was, hey, James, go out and collect the eggs, but put them in different baskets, right? Because they knew that I was a little kid and I might drop one of the baskets.
Right.
What a great principle. Today, people may not even understand. The younger kids may not understand that easy analogy. But what are some of the things from your life that you remember your grandparents or your parents taught you that were about financial principles?
Well, I could tell you this is that, I grew up a little bit untraditional childhood in that I was raised in Utah foster care from 1 to 14.
Yeah.
But one of the foster care families in Provo, Utah, Isla and Cecil Smith, taught me from the very beginning that if I wanted something, I had to work.
Love it.
And I had to save. And I had my money in a box, hidden. And whenever I was in a bad mood, I mean, in it was my baseball cards, in it was my money.
Yeah.
And you took it all out and you counted it. And, okay, it's growing.
Love that.
And then you were out hustling because other kids may not hustle. And you go out and you see somebody's yard needs to be mowed. Boy, I went after that. And then I got the reward of going out and making the purchase.
Yeah.
And my dad taught me early on that work, you have to have a love of working. Yeah. It's an honor to work.
Absolutely.
And
an
giving
opportunity.
the extra mile so that people noticed you so you could work some more and get paid some more.
Yeah.
And then believing that you could have.
And how many kids today, my grandpa, what rings in my head is you better be at work 10 minutes early.
Yeah.
And you stay 5 minutes late. And yet sometimes I see these employees, they come in 4 or 5 minutes late. They then go grab their coffee or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And then the bell rings, 5 o'clock, they're out of there.
We had anymore of the, I look at good companies, really good companies, and Chick-fil-A is a good company. It is built around the experience of a pleasing personality. I don't remember the food, but somebody's going to smile at you. You don't see anybody at Chick-fil-A at the counter with their cell phone.
That's true.
You just don't see it. It's interesting. I had a client that I work with that just called me and said, "Hey, David, is it against the law for me to ban cell phones while at work?" And I said, "Well, what are you experiencing?" And he named it off. The people are in between social media or what have you. They're serving the guest. But we're losing a little bit of that experience, which means if you understand it, you don't have to do much.
You rise way above
to be
everybody
noticed.
Else. Yeah, I totally agree.
You do not have to be much to be noticed. Tell me a little bit about more about. You work with business owners, and I happen to be one of them. But there's investment advisors for individuals, whether you're
a school teacher,
you
work for the state, or there's a vast variety for sure.
The one thing that my father taught me is he says, my dad used to hide money. Hide money. I mean, he had some money hidden.
I think everybody
and
has
not
a little.
Just a little bit.
Oh, really?
Dad would have like thousands. And he told me, he says, you know what? If you can't afford to invest in something, put it in a can until the can is full. And then take the can and invest in something.
Yeah.
And then invest in it. So you can start just in a coffee can.
Yeah, for example,
if you have to.
You could, Robinhood is a newer company.
Yes.
Last 5 or 6 years that they started. Their whole model was there's no trading cost. Now, they're going to make a lot of money because you'll sit the cash in there and you don't get paid anything on it. And so that's where they're able to make some money. But for as low as $100, you can open an account and you can start putting, dollars away into it and just grow it.
and have some fun doing it. But, you know, it's interesting. In one of the books that changed my life is Think and Grow Rich by Dr. Napoleon Hill. And he has a whole section on the budgeting of time and money. One of the things that he had indicated that the first 10% is for you.
Yep.
And to put it away.
Absolutely.
And the next part was insurance, that if you have a family, you needed to have insurance. The 10% that you put away was not the insurance
That's
money.
right.
They were different. And when my kids left the house, I asked them both to read one book, The Automatic Millionaire.
Great book.
Familiar with that book? And
Great
it
book.
talks about the discipline of the utilization of money.
I'm trying to remember. I met the author.
Dave Ramsey.
No.
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 No. You're right. Botch. Okay.
David Bach.
Yeah, Bach. David
Yeah.
Bach.
He great guy.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like you and me. He's a shorter, smart, intelligent, good-looking, dressed guy.
I'm glad you included the good looking.
Yeah.
I didn't know I was short.
You and I aren't 6 feet, right? We're both about 5'10". But from a standpoint, David Bach is a great presenter. And if I were to write a book, that's the book I would write. Because he wrote it, I'm moving on to different things and helping people in different ways. But great book to get started, absolutely.
Well, tell me a little bit about your education. Where did you get it? How long did it take? And how was it to get prepared to, I mean, it's got to be pretty daunting to look at somebody else's money and know you're responsible for somebody. It's a heavy weight.
That's
a heavy weight because if it's your own money and you lose it, it's your money.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about how you feel about that and your education.
Yeah. So my original plan and strategy was that I was going to get a master's degree. Mm-hmm. I was then going to go work on Wall Street. I was going to become a millionaire. Mm-hmm. And because of my father's death, it really changed my whole trajectory of what I wanted to do. I realized that money was not important anymore. I realized that people and relationships were the very most important. Mm-hmm. And the second thing that I learned was that it was not about time, it was about value. The more value you can create, then suddenly more people want to meet with you and knock on your door. And so in my situation, I graduated in finance. I minored in accounting. I wanted to be able to read a balance sheet.
Right.
But it was more important to me to get a certified financial planner designation. So a CFP is something that basically has studied 5 areas of finance. Mm-hmm. It takes you about 2 years, and there's about 1,800 pages of material. You have to take a 2-day exam. Hardest thing I've ever done in my life. But I became a certified financial planner in 2004. And then for me, it's more important to study what's current and cutting edge to be able to help my clients. But one of the things that I found the very most important is surrounding yourself with good people. Mm-hmm. You need to have really good attorneys. Yours is one of the best out there. You have really good CPAs. Yours is one of the best. From that standpoint that you want people to act independently in their expertise. And I have really one of the best personal teams that I've ever had. They're qualified, they're professional, they know what to do and how to do it. So I think your education is one thing. The second thing is, what's your focus? And to me, it was to create harmony within a family, understanding your goals and your priorities, more importantly, your values, and then giving you the best ideas that would help you get those quicker.
So it's about my purpose and you helping me achieve that. And I believe that we went through a pretty intense conversations about what is it that you
about
want your
2
life
hours of questions, right? Kind of interrogated
you. And I tell you something, you want to be in a position in your life that there's 2 forms of compensation. Certainly the first we work for, and that is the compensation of money. Yeah. And then if you work hard enough and smart enough to be able to enter the second level of compensation, and that is in relationships and experiences. And there's far too many that never get to enter that level. And I love the way that you and your team are dedicated to helping folks get to the time period that they can experience the more valuable things in life. And certainly our time is the greatest asset. And to be able to use that in the fourth quarter of your life and in the overtime area, that is cool. I want to thank you very much for being in our program today and talking about the budgeting of money. It's so important. Save and invest, and save and invest. Do you have any closing comments you'd like to make?
You know, I think the only thing that I would say, and thank you again for having me here. I'm amazed at all the great things that you've accomplished in your life. You're a great example, especially what I've seen you continually do, David, is you reach out to people that you know you can help. And I mean, let me be a little bit more personal. The reason I met you is originally because of my son.
Mm-hmm.
My son struggles with mental health.
Mm-hmm.
And after a quick phone call, you said, come and join me. I have something that maybe can help. And I was so impressed by that kindness and generosity. That's rare today. So again, I appreciate that great warmth and kindness that you showed in the very beginning before you and I became friends.
And your son's a very nice young man.
Thank you. I think so too. What I would probably close with from a standpoint of, too often people think investing is about picking the right time to invest.
Mm-hmm.
And if you think about the last 50, 60 years, the stock market is going to basically take a third of your portfolio away every 4 to 5 years. So just plan on that. But if you'll stick with it the next 2 years, it will replenish. And the stock market has always gone on to new highs. So if it went down more than it went up, it would be at zero. So just being time in the market, continually saving, being diversified, you're going to have an immense amount of time. You're going to be able to add a lot more value back to people's lives.
Well, I'll tell you what, the amount that you invest for me, I too want to thank you for talking me off the ledge 2 or 3 times. And I'm glad I listened and just get back to work. And again, life is about obstacles. Life is about adversity and learning to work your way through it. It's part of the principles of success, and it's so important. As a gift for being on our program today, I'd like to give you a copy of my book.
Thank you.
And that is Live Ready, Beyond Think and Grow Rich. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much, David.